Rep Fitness has redone their entire barbell lineup in an attempt to directly compete with what many home gym owners consider the best option for barbells, Rogue Fitness. So as always, I've gone a little overboard and not only tested Rep's double black diamond power bar extensively, but I've taken it apart to compare how it's built and then putting it up against not only Rogue's Ohio power bar and hybrid power bar, but some Texas power bars and even high-end options like the American Barbell Chewy bar. But I'll also sprinkle in a few other comparisons since I never really know when to stop, so that we can see just how well this bar stands up against the competition. Now, not to ruin the ending of this review, but the double black diamond's quality is a little too close to comfort if I'm Rogue or some of these other guys. But I do have one major complaint we have to address. Rep's power bar, based on specs and price, puts them right there with everyone else. With a 29mm shaft diameter and 200K tensile strength, it's a stiff bar. It's got bronze bushings and weighs 20 kilograms, meaning they've essentially matched the specs of every other popular power bar, although it does have a 1% weight tolerance, and I can't wait for some reviewer to start unironically weighing barbells as one of their criticisms. But it's the build quality and some of the things Rep is doing a little differently that means even though this is an imported bar, I would choose it over some of these American-made options. I think the best place to start this review is to talk about build quality, because Rep redid all their barbells so that they'd stand out from the pack, which wasn't really the case before. That's not to say that their bars were bad, just kind of average. And I say that having a lot of power bars across all budget ranges. I mean, not more than any normal person would have, but it might be time for me to do a huge showdown video comparison because my wife stopped listening to my feeble attempts at justifying all of them after the third time she tripped on the ones left on the floor after I ran out of barbell storage about 9 bars ago. So let me know in the comments if that's something you want to see. Now, Rep did send me this bar for free for the review, but I bought all the rest of these. So if you enjoy our content and want to support the channel and more importantly, my addiction, then please check out the affiliate links in the description or our reviews of these other bars if any of them are something you're interested in. So how does Rep stand out from the literal dozens of bars I have? I think that if you're debating this bar, it's probably going to come down to 1, knurling, and you know I went full nerd and did macro shots against all these. We'll get there. 2, bar construction and how Rep is putting this bar together a little differently. 3, finish options and pricing. And 4, some of those nice to have touches like laser etched collars and cool looking metal end caps that don't affect performance, but if you're some weird guy who constantly takes your barbells apart, I have to admit those metal end caps do look a lot better than my beat up Rogue ones. And if you lift to look cool online, remember it's much easier to Photoshop on plates than it is to tweak how a barbell looks. I would know. If I were to rank these on build quality, it would go something like this, and I'm oversimplifying this to speed things up. So please keep the bullying in the comments about my terrible hair and lack of performance enhanced muscle. Number 1 is the American Barbell Chewy bar, but it is more expensive than the rest of these, but that doesn't dilute the fact it's the best made bar here, and it's the only one not put together with what's become your typical snap ring construction system, but we'll talk about that more in our upcoming Rep Colorado bar review because Rep is using a very similar system there. But the end result is that the Chewy is a very well done and quieter bar than the rest of these. Not that that matters at all once your plates hit the ground during a deadlift. At number 2, I'd put the hybrid power bar because Rogue has incredibly tight tolerances on these sleeves, resulting in almost no radial and axial end float. And number 3, I'd probably put a tie between the double black diamond bar and Rogue Ohio Power Bar, with both of them having subjective advantages over each other. If you look at their tolerances, they're pretty close. Both have a little axial and radial end float, which is a fancy way of saying there's some jiggle in the sleeves, which is fine, even if that's not normally where I like my jiggle, but it doesn't bother me unless it's really sloppy, like on a Texas Power Bar. Now, I don't mean to offend fans of those bars, but there's no arguing they're sloppy, which is why I'd put them 4th or 5th or however many bars I have here. Anyway, the double black diamond is a little bit quieter than the Ohio Power Bar because they've put foam on the inside of the end cap and they're using grease inside the sleeves, just like Rogue does with the hybrid Power Bar versus the oil they use in the Ohio Power Bar. That grease, combined with, I guess we could call it an interior end cap, acts as a dampener to absorb more of the shock and movement of the bar, which results in a little less sound. Also, the smooth sleeves on Reps bars versus the ribbed of Rogues will affect sound when loading and unloading plates, but that's really more of a personal preference thing. I'm not sure I'd necessarily argue that's a quality difference. So where did I come up with those rankings? I took all of these bars apart, cried when I realized how long it would take to put them back together, and literally compared the builds even down to using calipers until it was like 11:30 at night and my wife told me to go to bed, and I really started wondering what I'm doing with my life. Honestly, most of that doesn't matter if they perform the same, and for the most part they do. I've used this bar for weeks in deadlift, bench, squat, and dozens of other movements, and the only difference I ever really notice is with the knurling. And knurling is why I picked these specific bars to compare to, because they pretty much show the gamut of the aggressiveness of power bar knurls. Again, simplifying things a bit, because while going in depth on TPI, pitch, and other technical jargon would probably help my audience retention time, since you'd fall asleep watching that, that's not really the algorithm boost I'm going for, but you still feel free to like, comment, and subscribe all the same. So this time we're gonna rank them from least aggressive to most to see where rep fits in. The least aggressive of the batch is the American Barbell Chewy Bar. It has a very clean and well done volcano style knurl. But if you're a barbell connoisseur, which means a nerd like me, you might find that knurling to be a bit passive, at least when compared to the rest of these. From there, you've got the Ohio Power Bar, a volcano knurl that's sticky without being overly sharp, which kind of puts it in the middle of the aggressiveness scale and also makes it a knurl that most people would find comfortable. Next is Rep's Double Black Diamond. Now this is a mountain style knurl, so more pointed and aggressive, but at least to me, it's not to the point where I think people would find it overly sharp. Whereas if we move to the hybrid Power Bar, which has Rogue's Aggro 2 knurling, I think this, with its deep volcano knurling, even though it's a volcano and not a mountain style knurl, the teeth are larger, so they have more bite to them. And this is where you start turning the corner of knurls that might be too much for some people. But here's the thing, knurling preference is subjective and nobody can tell you which kind of shaft you like feeling in your hand, which is my way of backpedaling when I say I'm not a big fan of Texas Power Bar's deep mountain style knurling, and I say that owning their deadlift bar, 28.5 millimeter and 29 millimeters bars. To me, it's sharp for the sake of being sharp, and while I know that some of you like it rough, to me and my soft model hands, it's too much, and it's also notoriously inconsistent between batches and often sloppy. But what do I know? My wife loves their bars, and I don't want to undersell the importance of knurling. It's your direct connection with the bar and debatably the most important element of a barbell. But knurl and build quality aren't the only things you have to consider when selecting a barbell. So let's talk about where I think Rep missed the mark a bit with this bar, and that's with their finishes and pricing. Well, finishes might be a bit unfair to say, but I'm trying to compare apples to apples here, so we're going to lump them together for the sake of making the comparison easier. Rep's offering a Cerakote finish with Duracoat sleeves, and I managed to put 6 bars up here and somehow didn't include the one I need, so we're just going to do a little awkward cut time. Wow, this bar was here the whole time and you guys are telling me you didn't even notice it? That's embarrassing. This is the Colorado bar that we'll be reviewing, and it has a Cerakote shaft and Duracoat sleeves, which is not anything new. This is the same finish as a Rogue Ohio Power Bar with a Cerakote shaft and matte black sleeves. Duracoat and matte black are the same thing, and it's a finish you'll be seeing more companies come out with in the future. It's durable, holds up better than pretty much any sleeve finish except for hard chrome and stainless steel, and it's also cheaper than many other finishes, hence its growing popularity, but it does still wear. Cerakote is a great finish, but not my favorite finish on a shaft, as it fills in the knurling some, making it a little less aggressive, but it does allow you to put some cool colors and designs on it, and it's more durable than anything except a stainless steel, which is by far my favorite finish because it's the most durable, doesn't corrode when well done, and it doesn't affect the knurling. But when it comes to finishes, only you're gonna know what you like on your shaft. My issue isn't with Rep's finishes, they're all very well done, it's in their pricing. If we put the double black diamond and Ohio Power Bar against each other and match their finishes, unless I can't do math, which is a real possibility, Rogue is only about 10% more. Now this is a great bar, and if you want smooth sleeves, a little more aggressive knurling, and enjoy the finer touches like metal end caps or laser etching, I think you'll love this bar. But to me anyway, even if this is a better made bar, the prices are too close to an American made bar versus an imported one. Thanks to our patrons, links in the description, and check out our Ohio Power Bar and Hybrid Bar reviews here if you want to hear me talk about shafts for a little bit longer.